Yesterday, Thomas Biaggi and Fabrizio Crestani were crowned the 2016 International GT Open champions, but who will win the final race of the season? Who will claim second in the standings? We'll find out over the next hour or so. It's a very warm welcome to Circuit Barcelona Catalunya for the final race of the 2016 GT Open season, which has taken us around some of Europe's finest circuits, given us some fantastic racing. And today, with a bumper grid, perfect weather conditions we should be in for a great race. Let's hello from Ben Evans, commentary box overlooking the start and finish straight here in Barcelona as our 2016 champions for the Orange One Team Lazarus Lamborghini squad, Thomas Biaggi and Fabrizio Crestani, set off on their outlet, but it is a different Lamborghini Huracan which will start today from pole position. It's the Antonelli Motorsport car of Daniel Zampieri, who qualified on pole after the most incredible qualifying session earlier on. Heavy overnight rain meant that the track was still slightly damp when the cars went out to qualify, and each and every lap saw an improvement, and the order was changing right the way through to the final couple of cars crossing the line at the end of the session. But it was Daniel Zampieri who will start from pole position. Zampieri, a former GTS champion in the International GT Open. More familiar maybe as a Ferrari competitor, but in the Antonelli Motorsport Lamborghini this weekend, he has been flying, partnering Marco Antonelli. Second on the grid, going to the TF Sport Aston Martin, but not of Sally Yillikin, Ewan Hankey, but John Barnes and Mark Farmer. And it's Barnes who qualified that car this morning after problems they had yesterday, and will start from second on the grid. For Thomas Biaggi, however, this is going to be a race for him to enjoy, with the title sealed yesterday, but he's got plenty of work to do because he starts from 14th on the grid and therefore is going to be in the pack in the early stages. This, of course, a 60-minute race. There is the mandatory pit stop that comes between 24 and 36 minutes, the element of strategy, but with well over 20 cars lining up on the grid for today, the track is going to be plenty busy as well. An incredible strength in depth. Very, very hard to pick a winner given the closeness of the field. So the cars all just forming up in position on the grid there. You see the blue and white TF Sport Aston Martin of John Barnes, Mark Farmer. Daniel Zampieri picks his way down through the grid, all the way to that pole position. Past the car of Peter Schutters, the Teo Marti Motorsport BMW, which lines up in 9th. Nicky Kadai in 7th as well in the Kessel Ferrari, and then to pole for Daniel Zampieri. So the Italian comes to a halt, the door is opened, and the final tweaks and preparations on the grid are able to get underway. Well, yesterday it was victory for Peter Terting and Kevin Estre after they pretty much dominated the second half of the race in the Attempto Racing Porsche. Runners-up were Crestani and Biaggi, with Sean Balfe and Phil Keane in the Balfe Motorsport McLaren taking excellent third. That car looking very well sorted this weekend, but talking to Sean after the race, he felt he got caught in traffic just a little bit, and maybe more could have been achieved. Daniel Zampieri strapped in to the cockpit of the Lamborghini, fully focused on the job ahead. Alongside him on the front row of the grid, then John Barnes. Barnes and Farmer, who've been very quick in the British GT Championship this season, making the step on to International GT Open this weekend. Fraught with problems yesterday. Mark Farmer didn't do a flying lap in qualifying, made a good start to the race, but then was forced into retirement early on. So they'll be hoping that the car runs better this afternoon. On the second row of the grid, it's the first of the 3 Attempto Racing entries on the grid. This is their Lamborghini Huracan in the hands of Christian Krognes and Emil Lindholm. And it's Norwegian Krognes who will be starting the race. But this certainly a car that could be in contention for the podium this afternoon. Krognes all relaxed at the wheel. Peter Turting will start the Attempto Racing Porsche. He shares with Kevin Estre, and Turting guiding the car home to the checker flag yesterday, after Estre was the only driver who could really live with Fabrizio Crostani in the early stages of yesterday's race. Thomas Biaggi Fan Club out in force, as lining up in 5th on the grid, it's the first of the Garage 59 McLarens. That is Com Ledegaard in the car that he shares with Alexander West. They had a difficult race yesterday after West was involved in an incident in the early stages, and therefore Ledegaard was out really putting some laps into the car rather than fighting for any positions. But he starts from 5th. So there is the Frenchman, Com Ledegaard. Thumbs up from the 25-year-old at the wheel of the Garage 59 McLaren. And then it's the Balfe Motorsport McLaren that shares the 3rd row, Phil Keane and Sean Balfe. And it's Keane who starts the race. And thumbs up from Phil. I think they, again, are quietly confident of getting onto the podium. It's a very welcome return to the series this weekend for Kessel Racing with a couple of cars. And Nicky Kadai, alongside Alexis de Bernardi, is certainly going to feature at the front of the field in the early stage of the race. Francesco Cini in the Solaris Motorsport Aston Martin that he shares with Jody Fannin, and they have been struggling to get in clear laps all weekend, but the car's got good race pace, so Cini and Fannin could look to push on for a podium. Peter Schotthorst in the first of the team Thierry Martin BMWs lines up in 9th place alongside 2015 champion Miguel Ramos. 10th place on the grid is the GTM pole sitter Kiko Galbiati in the second of the Antonelli Motorsport Lamborghinis. And then 11th on the grid for Fernando Mohe and Gustavo Jacquemin in the second Thierry Martin BMW. They came into the weekend with the possibility of challenging for the championship, but yesterday's race just didn't go their way, but they will hope to finish the season on a high. So the 1-minute board shown to the drivers. The grid is cleared, engines will be fired up, and then we will be going racing in just a couple of moments' time. The Thunder warming up on the grid. Let's have a look then at how they line up in full. Daniel Zampieri and John Barnes share the front row. Then it's Christian Krognes and Peter Turting on row 2. Row 3 of the grid is Com Ledegaard and Phil Keane, ahead of row 4 with Nicky Kadai and Francesco Cini, 2 Italian drivers. First of the Thierry Martin BMWs is on row 5, Peter Schotthorst alongside GTM pole sitter Kiko Galbiati. Then it's Fernando Mohe and yesterday's GTM winner David Perel on the 6th row. Marco Ciocci and Thomas Biaggi will both press on from the 7th row of the grid. And then Jerome Policon and Sally Ullett likewise relatively out of position down in 15th and 16th. Mike Benham, Duncan Tappy could well threaten for a podium. Benham shares row 9 with Benjamin Ricci. Then it's Arkin Acker and Luis Silva, 2 GTM front runners, and Juan Cruz Alvarez in the DriveX Audi towards the back of the field. Unfortunately, free practice put paid to the chance of the Lechner Mercedes and the SF Ferrari. So the cars on the final formation lap of the 2016 campaign. And if you're new to the International GT Open, to explain, it's an hour-long race. They must make a mandatory pit stop between the 24th 236th minute of the race. They all run on a controlled compound Michelin tyre, and the way that performance is balanced through the season is through additional success seconds in the pit stops. Now they accumulate for the drivers who finish on the podium in the preceding races. So what that means for today is that Thomas Biaggi and Fabrizio Crostani have got an additional 30 seconds in the pits, as do Kevin Estre and Peter Terting, which is from yesterday's race win, plus the new entrant additional seconds that they'd have picked up. And those are probably the longest stops to watch for. Ledegar and West have also got an additional 10 seconds in the pits beyond the mandatory minimum 65 seconds in the pits. In terms of the championship then, well, Fabrizio Crostani and Thomas Biaggi are crowned champions, but the fight for second place in the championship is well and truly underway, because Fernando Mohe and Gustavo Jacquemin come into today's race tied on points with Sean Balfe. So whichever of those cars finishes ahead of each other is going to take second place in the championship. And what's worth watching for is that the new cars entered for this weekend that we haven't seen already this year won't be scoring points, and therefore the points situation could be a little bit different to the overall race result, but we'll keep you appraised of that. Field behind the pace car readying themselves to the rolling start, heading through turn 10, which is one of the main overtaking opportunities around this Barcelona circuit before climbing into this final complex, turns 12 and 13. Two right-handers that then feed the cars back towards the end of the lap. And when the pace car peels away, it will be Daniel Zampieri's responsibility to pace the field, waiting for the lights to change. John Barnes alongside him, but then some very, very quick cars and drivers a little bit further down. It's going to be quite the charge into turn 1, and it should be a fantastic end to the season. So it's the black and red Lamborghini, Daniel Zampieri, alongside the blue and white Aston Martin of John Barnes. The all-blue Attempto Racing cars on row 2. The Garage 59 and Balfe Motorsport McLarens on row 3. You'd expect one of those cars to challenge for the lead into turn 1. But it could be another. So they now head down, start and finish straight. The final race of the year about to get underway as we wait for lights to change, and they do now. And it's a lightning getaway from Com Ledegar, but he's been boxed in as he tries to fight his way through the pack. But it's John Barnes who gets his nose in front of Daniel Zampieri as they charge to the first corner. But Zampieri ducks around Barnes, claims the lead. It's going to be congested, but they all just about avoid contact. Phil Keane pushed sideways, Francesco Cini on the grass, and Sally Ullich into the gravel. So wretched way for Sally Ullich's season to come to a close as the pack powers through turn 3. Zampieri leads. Second, it's one of Barnes and Ledegar. Com Ledegar challenges the outside of John Barnes as they swing through turn 4 on towards turn 5. Barnes shows Ledegar the grass. Christian Krognes finds it on his own, as does Peter Schotthorst. Down through turn 5. Schotthorst losing out to Cini. Fernando Mohe, Marco Ciocci also looking to try and gain some places, and there, unfortunately, is Sally Ullich. First lap retirement for the Turkish driver. There's already Ledegar trying to pressurise his way past John Barnes. He can sense Daniel Zampieri making good his escape at the front of the field. The rest of the field all filed through. Juan Cruz Alvarez has had a good first lap. He's gained a fair amount. Oh, contact! Christian Krognes into John Barnes as they all squeezed into turn 10. Hope nobody else comes into contact with the Aston Martin. They don't. It was just a little bit too congested. The big winner of that is Peter Terting. He goes up into third place behind Sean Balfe and Phil Keane. It's Keane at the wheel, of course, the Balfe Motorsport McLaren. It means that Daniel Zampieri is going to have a fairly hefty lead as they come to the end of the lap, as Christian Krognes departs to the pit lane, having dinged the front of the Lamborghini. So Zampieri leads 3.5 seconds ahead of Phil Keane after that big gap in the traffic opened up with the contact behind. Third place is Terting, fourth Ledegar, fifth Cadai, sixth Cini, seventh is Schotthorst, eighth is Monnier. I'm not sure that Juan Cruz Alvarez saw the wave yellow flag then as he ducked to the inside of Mike Benham. Pag charged through the third turn, and Zampieri now trying to disappear at the front of the field with clear air though. Phil Keen will hope that he can make some ground for Com Ledegaard. He was caught in that sandwich, and he's now lost out to Peter Turting, but fortunately doesn't seem to have picked up any damage to the Garage 59 McLaren. Here are the two Teo Martin Motorsport BMWs, tucked up behind Francesco Cini's Solaris Aston Martin. Another look then, and Krognes launching to the inside, and you have to feel for John Barnes there. He was totally innocent as the Norwegian just went in a little bit too hot. Aston Martin tipped into the spin. The good news is, though, that Barnes is up and running, and seemingly without any ill effects to the TF Sport Aston Martin, but not a great first lap for the TF Sport team. They lost one of their cars. Mark Farmer's frustration evident. So Fernando Mohe trying to make some progress. Meanwhile, John Barnes is making plenty of progress. He's already moved clear of Luis Silva. His next target is Benjamin Ricci. Luis Silva, Antonio Coimbra had a difficult day yesterday in the Sporting New Mercedes. Now Silva busy doing battle with Arkinaka. The GTM classes across the line for the second time. Zampieri leads 2.8 seconds his advantage over Phil Keen, but Phil Keen 7/10 quicker than Zampieri last time around. Then Com Ledegaard looks to challenge the inside of Peter Turting, sees the waved yellow flag, backs out of the move. The rest of the field all thundering through as Sally Ullick's car recovered to safety. I just wonder at what point Fernando Mohe may be released ahead of Peter Schotthuis to try and chase down Phil Keen in the Balfe Motorsport McLaren, because that's the car that could pip them for second in the championship. There you see how it currently is set up for the points, because Daniel Zampieri's Attempta Motorsport Lamborghini not a point-scoring car this weekend. Now here is Juan Cruz Alvarez, the inside of Mike Benham, and went for a move. You could clearly see the yellow flag being waved. So I wouldn't be too surprised if Race Control summoned the DriveX team manager before too long. Meanwhile, the fight for third between Peter Turting and Com Ledegaard, very close one. The McLarens this weekend have been a great overall package, but what they've been struggling to do is clear traffic quite as effectively as some of the other cars. And you can see how quick Ledegaard is through the turns. But where is the opportunity to challenge the Attempto Porsche? It's not through turn 12, despite Ledegaard's best intentions. Down through turn 13 into the chicane, 14 and 15. Ledegaard rides the curbs, trying to hustle his way past Peter Turting. Then in fifth place it's Nicky Kadai, sixth is Francesco Cini, seventh Schotthuis, eighth Mohe, ninth Ciocci, and 10th is the GTM class leader, David Perel. So that's the current classification. Still waved yellow flags. Turn 2, but they've now been retreated, so Ledegaard is free to hassle Turting. All the while, Phil Keen 7/10 quicker than Daniel Zampieri again on that last lap. So Keen within 2 seconds now of the race leading Lamborghini. So Ledegaard runs a little bit wide out of turn 3. John Barnes already up into 16th place after that first lap contact. Krognes yet to re-emerge from the pits. Down through turn 5. Garage 59 McLaren team watch on. This is another McLaren, the Balfe Motorsport car of Phil Keen, which is the quickest car on the track at the moment. That last lap of 1 minute 48.1 from Keen. Trying to get onto terms with the Antonelli Motorsport car of Daniel Zampieri. Zampieri, though, not a driver renowned for being a shrinking violet when he gets the chance to go wheel to wheel with somebody. So this could be quite good fun for Keen and Balfe. Now, in terms of the success seconds, Sean Balfe and Phil Keen have got an additional 5 seconds in the pits that they accumulated. Oh, and a problem for Peter Turting. And Turting is hurting. He's off the road and poised in the gravel trap at the edge of the track, Just trying to pick up where that might be. But that's a real pity for the Attempto Racing Porsche. Two of the Attempto cars getting in trouble in the early stages. Now here is what happened. One could speculate if he possibly had a little bit of assistance, because that was where Ledegaard was threatening last time around. It's just coming through turn 12. And given how proximate the edge of the circuit, oh yes, and Ledegaard's in trouble as well. And that's a real shame for Com Ledegaard's season to close like this. He and Alex West victorious in race 2 in Monza, and Ledegaard pulls off the road. And yeah, the reaction of Alex West, I think, tells you everything that you need to know. And you just have to wonder if there was possibly some contact between Ledegaard and Terting, which has damaged Ledegaard's car. It's put Peter Terting into the gravel, and it has opened this race up completely now. It promotes Niki Kadai to 3rd. It promotes Francesco Sini to 4th, and the safety car comes out. So the race brought under control. Not huge surprise really with the Attempto Porsche of Peter Terting, yesterday's race winner, in the gravel right at the edge of the track at turn 12. There's no way that that can safely be recovered. And so the race is brought to a pause. Now this is bad news for a lot of the teams that have started the race with their pro drivers. So Daniel Zampieri, Phil Keane, Niki Kadai, all beat somewhat frustrated. It's possibly very good news for the Teo Martin Motorsport BMWs, because they've got quick drivers to go in the second half of the race. Also for the Solaris Aston Martin, Francesco Sini to pass over to Jody Fannin. But it does serve to bunch the field up. The pit window opens with 36 minutes left on the clock, so we're 14 minutes away from that happening. The order is Daniel Zampieri, who leads from Phil Keane, then Niki Kadai, Francesco Sini, Peter Schotthorst, Marco Ciocci, Fernando Jorge, David Perel in 8th, leads the GTM class from Jerome Policon in 9th, and the top 10 completed by our champion Thomas Biaggi. So great pity, Com Ledegaard and Peter Terting both stopped and out of the race. So in terms of the championship situation, well, for Sean Balfe, he is currently looking very good for 2nd in the standings, but given the pace that Phil Keane was running at, I think Sean would rather have fancied there not to be a safety car. It shouldn't be a fairly long one. Can see from the commentary box window that already Terting's car is on the cusp of being retrieved behind the barrier, and Ledegaard, inside turn 3 as well, is going to need a tow to a place of safety. The teams who this could help enormously, though, have to say that for Thomas Biaggi and Fabrizio Cristani, it gives them an outside chance at the podium, but also for Michael Benham and Duncan Tappy, currently in 12th place. Well, Benham is certainly going to give Tappy something to work with in the second half of the race. So the field all bunched up in a train. It's a bit of a shame, really, that the opening exchanges have been somewhat attritional, as we're certainly going to get one more lap behind the safety car, so that will keep the clock ticking downwards. So there is Mike Benham in the Garage 59 McLaren, winner in Estoril right at the start of the season, Benham, and he and Tappy will, I think, be quietly confident, certainly about getting onto the podium this afternoon. Likewise for the Solaris Aston Martins, and also the Teo Martin Motorsport BMWs. The other car that could really feature as well is Juan Cruz Alvarez and Esteban Gini in the DriveX Audi. But for Daniel Zampieri, the frustration of being behind the safety car down the pit straight, that last lap, 2 minutes and 40 seconds behind the safety car. So it means that there will be 45 minutes left on the clock when they get to the end of this lap. And just 9 minutes before the pit window opens for Zampieri and Keane to try and stretch the field again. Well, all the evidence suggests that this will be the last lap behind the safety car, because Com Ledegaard has been recovered over at turn 3 and Peter Terting likewise at turn 12. So the track is clear once more. The field all bunched up, and what had been a very intense start to the race is going to be even more so when we do get back racing. Zampieri looking for that signal on the roof of the safety car for the flashing lights to go out. He will then judge the right moment to back the field up and then pull the pin and get racing. Confirmation the safety car is coming on this lap from our timing screen. So we're about to get underway once more in Barcelona. Zampieri leads from Phil Keane, then it's Nicky Kadai. Here is the end of the moment between Com Ledegaard and Peter Terting, and if there was contact, it was very, very minor. Almost the punishment of both cars being out of the race, somewhat disproportionate possibly to the contact that was involved. We also lost on the first lap Christian Krognes and Sally Yuluk. So the lights are out on the safety car now as they climb through turn 12. Daniel Zampieri to pace the field. You know that Phil Keane is going to go with him, and Keane bunched up behind Zampieri. There is John Barnes. This is good news for the TF Sport Aston Martin driver as he looks to recover from that first lap contact with Christian Krognes. Gustavo Jacquemin watches on the Teo Martin Motorsport pit wall. Jacquemin will take over from Fernando Moje mid-race. And now Zampieri pulls the pin out of the chicane through the final turn, trying to stretch away from Phil Keane, but the field have pretty much gone as one here. They all read his intentions as they blast down towards the first corner into the 8th lap of the race. And already Ciocci looking to the inside of Peter Schotthorst. Francesco Cini also showing himself to the inside of Nicky Kadai. Cini just outbraking himself a little bit. Schotthorst then backed up into the attentions of Marco Ciocci and the Kaspersky Ferrari, with Monje and David Perel just behind. So out of turn 3 into turn 4, and already the Antonelli Motorsport Lamborghini of Tony Zampieri trying to streak away, and that's a good move from Ciocci. He gains the place on Peter Schotthorst. The South African Perel also looking to make some progress as well. Interesting to read about Perel's career progression, having cars in his youth, then through his business endeavours saved up for the opportunity to go motor racing, and when he did, coming to Europe for a GT race, found he was rather good at it and has decided to see how far his talent can take him, and he's now running behind both of the Teo Martin Motorsport BMWs as they head out of turn 10 into turn 11. Then there's a little bit of a gap between Perel and Jerome Polincourt in 9th place. Thomas Biaggi rounding out the top 10. Meanwhile, down to the chicane for Daniel Zampieri. This has been a good lap from Zampieri. Phil Keane staying with him. Kadai just offline through the chicane. The same for Peter Schotthorst. It's got Moje and Perel tucked up right behind. Really the field all running as a very close bunch. It's this gaggle of cars now that sprints down the start and finish straight. Moje under pressure here from Perel, and Perel in the Kessel Ferrari looking to the inside of Fernando Moje. Ciocci to the same with Francesco Cini. David Perel is going to be able to squeeze past it and takes the place. Well driven. We've got a drive-through penalty for Christian Krognes, but that slightly irrelevant. He's been in the pits the last 15 minutes as Perel gains the place of Moje up into 7th. The other driver who's making good progress is John Barnes, as Juan Cruz Alvarez looks to the inside of Thomas Biaggi into turn 4. John Barnes just behind them. Cruz Alvarez, I can tell you though, his team manager has been summoned to race control with immediate effect, and we saw that potential overtaking on yellow flag incident. And so that, I'm sure, is the reason for the discussion. It's probably not an invitation for tapas. As out of turn 8, in towards turn 9, Zampieri from Keane, then Kadai, Sini, Chiocci. What a lovely shot of these supercars as they accelerate through turn 9 and then down to the braking zone for turn 10. Sini in the Solaris. Aston Martin looks to the inside of Nicky Kadai. Kadai, though, I'm sure is not going to fall for that. Chiocci just behind, who has been so aggressively rapid this weekend. And then John Barnes still in the hunt. He's in 12th, but in terms of deficit to the lead, it's not very much at all. The AKKA ASP team, Mercedes of Jerome Polincourt heads, Thomas Biaggi, Juan Cruz Alvarez, and then John Barnes out of the final turn. They run down the start and finish straight. Zampieri leads Keane by 1.2 seconds. Then it's a couple of seconds back to Nicky Kadai. And then Kadai, Sini and Chiocci all running as one. And there's the confirmation of your drive-through penalty for Christian Krognes after that contact with John Barnes on the first lap. I think the punishment for Krognes in the form of a rather bent Lamborghini Huracan is possibly greater than that of the drive-through penalty, as around the hairpin, turn 4, down to turn 5, Chiocci tries to hassle the Aston Martin. You can see how it's bobbing and weaving. Francesco Sini at the wheel. Great scrap this, and they're trying to ease away from Peter Schotthorst in 6th, and it's Perel in 7th, leads the GTM class. Nando Mohe in 8th. From Polincourt, Biaggi, Cruz Alvarez and John Barnes. Mike Benham, by the way, in 13th place, 13 seconds off the lead. Chiocci runs wide, 4.5 minutes until the pit window opens. Chiocci flashes his headlights at Francesco Sini. Sini's seen him, and he looks now to challenge Nicky Kadai as they climb out of turn 10 through 11 into 12. Kessel Ferrari driver. Kadai, though, soaking up everything that Francesco Sini can offer just at the moment. But the Solaris Aston Martin surely well positioned for later on in the race with Jody Fannin at the wheel, particularly if they can come through the pit stops and into some clear air. So over the line, this completes lap 10, the final race of the season in Barcelona for the International GT Open. Thank you very much for joining us. If you have just joined us, the safety car came out after a spate of moments early on, and means the field are all quite bunched as we head to the pit window opening. And that's when the strategy will start to come into play. We'd anticipate Mike Benham will come in fairly early on, or possibly a couple of others we would expect to see coming in reasonably early in the pit window. But Kadai, Sini and Chiocci may well start a little bit later, although the Solaris team might take the call to bring Sini in to give Jody Fannin some clear air as Francesco Sini defends from the aggressive Chiocci. Kaspersky Motorsport Ferrari 488, Marco Chiocci, he will pass over to Alex Moiseev as they climb uphill on towards turn 9. Zampieri's lead over Phil Keane has extended a little bit. It's now 1.8 seconds. Keane, though, 3 seconds up the road from Kadai. There you see it. And then Kadai in 3rd. Sini again, he's forced to take the inside line for turn 10. It's not really as if he's attacking Nicky Kadai. It's more that it just closes off that avenue to Marco Chiocci. But already as they're battling, you can see Peter Schotthorst closing in behind. Schotthorst almost half a second quicker than the 3 cars in front last time around. Kadai leaps over the curbs, worth about 0.2 of a second apparently, as he comes to the end of his 10th lap. Out of the final corner, Chiocci uses every inch of the road, possibly a little bit more, and a drive-through penalty for Juan Cruz Alvarez in the DriveX Audi. On our timing screen, not a surprise there. There's the confirmation for you. And well, we saw what looked, certainly from our angle, as it was an overtaking manoeuvre under yellow flags, and the race direction would appear to agree, so that will give Esteban Gini a fair amount of work to do in the second half of the race. So Kadai from Sini and Chiocci. This is the fight for third position. 3 seconds, maybe a little bit more adrift of Phil Keane, who's 2 seconds back from the race leader, Daniel Zampieri. There's Zampieri, here is Keane, the Balfe Motorsport McLaren, and as things currently stand, this is going to be enough to give Sean Balfe second in the Drivers' Championship. There is Sean. I would anticipate that Sean's going to get behind the wheel fairly deep into the pit window, which will shut with 24 minutes left on the clock. Meanwhile, Chiocci has had a little bit of a moment somewhere and has now got Peter Schothorst closing right up onto his tail. Now, where is Nicky Kadai? And Kadai has had a terrible run through the sector. He's had a moment somewhere, Nicky Kadai, and this is it. Running out very, very wide, just pushing too hard on the brakes into turn 7. And so the Kessel Ferrari through the gravel trap. And so that's why Sini was out on his own. It's why Chiocci had backed off. So Kadai down to 12th place. And now Francesco Sini into some clear air. Meanwhile, Peter Schothorst has been caught by David Perel. So here comes the South African, chasing the Dutchman. Down the hill, in towards the opening sequence of turns. So the order is now Zampieri, Keane, Sini, Chiocci, Peter Schothorst. David Perel leads GTM in 6th. There is Juan Cruz Alvarez, the Drivex Audi, in the fight for 8th place. But of course, Alvarez will have to have the drive-through penalty. The pit window is open meanwhile, and the first car to make its pit stop is Arkin Acker to hand over to Jürgen Hering. So Acker jumps out. Hering gets in. Also, Louis Silva is in to hand over to Antonio Coimbra. So 2 of the GTM pairings getting their pit stops done early. This group of cars, though, will probably stay out for a little bit longer. As Louis Silva unhooks himself, jumps out. Antonio Coimbra to jump in. Now already Chiocci coming straight back onto terms with Francesco Sini. Group of cars all dicing behind Peter Schothorst, David Perel, Fernando Morhe, and then a little bit of a gap in the traffic back to Jerome Policon. Down towards the chicane, towards the conclusion of the 13th lap of the race. And Daniel Zampieri's lead over Phil Keane, 3.3 seconds now. Zampieri in the Antonelli Motorsport Lamborghini really stretching clear of Keane, but Keane's got 5 seconds over Francesco Sini. Now that could be significant, because don't forget Sean Balfe and Phil Keane have got a 5-second success second handicappers. Into the pits now comes Fernando Morhe to hand over to Gustavo Jackermann. Out gets Morhe, in hops the Colombian Jackermann. Now, can he finish ahead of Sean Balfe? Driver change for the champions as well. Thomas Biaggi comes in out of the traffic to pass over to Fabrizio Crestani, but they have got 30 success seconds in the pits. With the field being as tightly bunched as it was, that's going to leave Fabrizio Crestani with a heck of a lot of work to do in the remaining 32 minutes or so of the race when he emerges from the pits. Also in is Mike Benham to hand over to Duncan Tappy as well, and that is potentially significant because Tappy, without success seconds and a little bit of clear air, could really press on. Headlights ablaze in the fight for 3rd and 4th. They've got Jürgen Hering, who has come out of the pits in the Attempto Racing Porsche. Duncan Tappy at the wheel of the Garage 59 McLaren, waiting for the signal to get back into the action. Benham's done a good job and will give Tappy the chance to challenge here. Already out of the pit lane has gone Gustavo Jackermann. So it's a very quick pit stop for Jackermann. The same for Duncan Tappy and the Garage 59 McLaren team. As Chiocci again trying to line up the move on Francesco Cini as they head out to the final turn. Here's the race leader, Daniel Zampieri, the Antonelli Motorsport Lamborghini. Zampieri navigates the opening sequence. This is the fight for third. Oh, they've caught Jürgen Hering at an awkward point. And I don't think Hering's seen them. Oh, there's contact. And around goes Cini. Oh, that's such a shame. Jürgen Hering turned it as Francesco Cini recovers in the path of David Perel, who has possibly in that instant had an unbelievable, hitherto unknown spike in blood pressure, because Cini, the red mist down, desperate to get back into the race. And I think he was possibly just in Hering's blind spot. It promotes Ciocci to third, and for the Solaris Aston Martin it's a real shame, because they were certainly poised to challenge for the podium. They still could be if there's no damage in the car. Meanwhile, it's all change for the Riccis, as out of the car gets Benjamin Ricci, in gets Mauro Ricci. Here's another look at it, and well, from that angle, Francesco Cini was arguably going for a gap that wasn't entirely there, but that was an ambitious recovery for the Italian. All of this is of no concern for Daniel Zampieri when he hands over to Marco Antonelli. Antonelli is going to find himself with a nice buffer at the front of the field to maintain. The pit window, don't forget, closes when there are 24 minutes left on the clock. So there is still another 7 minutes for Zampieri to keep pounding around. The same for Phil Keane. Meanwhile, John Barnes, TF Sport Aston Martin, in pursuit of Francesco Cini, and Cini ducks into the pits. Can tell you as well that Cini's team manager has already been summoned to race control. The Attempto Porsche now in the hands of Kevin Estre rejoins, but that's several laps down after Peter Terting was recovered from the gravel trap. So it's still a race where it's almost impossible to try and predict the podium. Jerome Policot doing a solid job as Cini to a halt. Door is open. Out jumps Cini. In will go Jody Fannin. Jody, a former race winner in the championship, back at Silverstone 2014 at the wheel of TF Sport Aston Martin. Zampieri now leads by 5.5 seconds over Phil Keane, as Nicky Kadai is in to hand over to the Luxembourgian driver Alexis de Bernardi. So Cini under investigation. Now that could hurt he and Jody Fannin's chances. Zampieri therefore leads as we're just over half race distance. Second place is Phil Keane. Third, Marco Ciocci. Fourth, Peter Schothorst. Fifth, leading GTM, is David Perel. Sixth is Jerome Policot. Seventh, John Barnes. Eighth is Kiko Galbiati. And ninth, Juan Cruz Alvarez. So that is the order as it stands halfway through this final race of the International GT Open season. Things stay as they are, then Sean Balfe looking very good for second in the championship. But charging lower down the field, Gustavo Jackermann and Duncan Tappy absolutely rocketing, both of them in the 1 minute 47 second bracket. Tappy just setting the fastest lap of the race. So those are two cars to watch for late on. Because if you've not seen one of these races before, once you get the pit stop cycle out of the way, you then start to see the gaps being chased down in the second phase of the race. And that's why, for Daniel Zampieri, in this point in proceedings, he has just got to put in what will feel like a succession of qualifying laps, one after another. At the moment, Zampieri able to steadily ease away from Phil Keane, as into the pit lane comes the other Antonelli Motorsport Lamborghini, and that is Kiko Galbiati, who comes to a halt, and he has got Marco and Manuel Diodati rather to take over from him. So Diodati will jump into the car that Galbiati bought in from 8th place. Sister car of Zampieri is going to have time for one more lap before the pit window comes to a close. What's interesting, of course, is that at the moment Zampieri is lapping a second a lap slower than Duncan Tappy. So Tappy all the while taking time out of the race leader, as now Zampieri streaks through, completes his 17th lap of the race. And he will have to pit in at the end of this one. Meanwhile, in comes Phil Keane to pass over to Sean Balfe. Now the battle in the second half of the race is going to be between Balfe and Jackman. Whoever comes out on top of that will finish second in the championship. Phil Keane won't be able to pass over quite the advantage he would have hoped to Sean Balfe as a result of the safety car period. That's a new set of Michelin tyres for Sean Balfe. Also into pit lane is Peter Schotthorst, the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW, and Miguel Ramos will take over from him. So the Teo Martin squad get to work. Off the air jacks. Now here is Duncan Tappy. And Tappy and Jackman are flying. They're currently in 8th and 10th place respectively. And Tappy is 10 seconds actually down the road behind Gustavo Jackman. They've got Jody Fannin in between the pair of them. David Perel putting in a super stint. And now Steve Earle will take over from him. So of those that have pitted and come through, for my reckoning, it's Jackman from Fannin and then Tappy. And Phil Keane and Sean Balfe, they are losing a little bit more time through the pit stop than they ought to have done. It means that Jackman, in fact, is going to emerge from the pits, or rather Balfe will emerge from the pits behind Gustavo Jackman, behind Miguel Ramos and behind Jody Fannin. So in terms of the fight for second in the championship, that pit stop for Sean Balfe and Phil Keane, it should have been 70 seconds. It was in fact 76 seconds. And those 6 seconds have really hurt them, as now the race leader, Daniel Zampieri, heads down the pit lane. So does Marco Ciocci behind him and Jerome Policon. They were the three remaining. So Marco Antonelli opens the door as Zampieri jumps out. Ciocci, his job done, hands over to Alex Moiseev in the Kaspersky Motorsport AF course car. So Gustavo Jackman is currently looking very nicely poised here in the Teo Martin Motorsport BMW. He's put in some blistering laps, and he is currently racing cars that are static in the pit lane. Miguel Ramos, likewise, very well poised. Jean-Luc Berbelique takes over from Jerome Policon. Berbelique, who was runner-up in last year's French GT Championship. Now Jody Fannin gets to work on Miguel Ramos. This could be interesting. Fannin, of course, has got the possibility of some sort of sanction looming over his head after that recovery from Francesco Cini into the path of oncoming traffic. So Jackman goes over the start and finish line. Now, where is Gustavo Jackman? So there is Marco Antonelli. So Marco Antonelli emerges from the pits. So he is going to be the race leader as we come to the end of the pit window and the end of the first sector. So Antonelli leads the way. What sort of pace can he set? Second place is going to be Gustavo Jackman. So Jackman is second. Third is Alex Moiseev. Fourth is Miguel Ramos. Fifth, Jody Fannin. Sixth is Sean Balfe. So that is the current classification. So it's Antonelli, 11 seconds clear of Gustavo Jackman. Moiseev is third. Ramos is fourth. Fifth, Fannin. Sixth, Balfe. Seventh, Berbelique. Eighth, Duncan Tappy. Ninth, Mark Farmer. And Stephen Earle leads the GTM class in 10th place. Well, Gustavo Jackman, 23 minutes, 11.2 seconds. Can he do it? Here comes the Colombian out of turn 9, down towards turn 10. This is going to be quite the grandstand finish here in Barcelona. So Alex Moiseev in third place in the Kaspersky Ferrari. Moiseev, who nearly got on the rostrum in Monza, and he's got a reasonable buffer here over Miguel Ramos, some 4 seconds or so. So Antonelli completes the lap. Gustavo Yackerman waiting for the Colombian to come past us. She does now. 9.7 seconds back from Antonelli, so Yackerman is the man on the move. Now, the Antonelli car isn't a point-scoring car, so this would be a win in championship terms for Yackerman, but can he win the race outright overall? That's what he's going to be looking for. Gustavo Yackerman and Fahem Mohe, they have had one win already this year. That came in race 2 at the Red Bull Ring. A lot of second places as well along the way. It's Moiseev being reeled in by Ramos. Now there you see the championship situation, and basically Sean Balfe and Phil Keane spending 10 seconds longer in the pits than Yackerman. Mohe is what has engineered that switch, plus the blisteringly fast outlaps that were set by Gustavo Yackerman. So now the AF Course team watch on. Marco Antonelli, the race leader. Second place Yackerman. This is the fight for third. Moiseev being caught very quickly by Miguel Ramos and Jody Fannin. They've got Sean Balfe about 4 seconds behind them. Duncan Tappy trying to close the gap down toward them. There's a flash of the headlights from Miguel Ramos. He would like to finish the season with a podium as well, and it's certainly on the cards. Well, the frustration here for Jody Fannin is, but for that spin for Francesco Cini, Fannin would have been fed out well ahead of this group of cars. As it is, he's in and amongst the traffic, and the Ferrari 488 is a pretty potent piece of kit. Even if Moiseev isn't quite as experienced as Ramos and Fannin. So across the line they come into their 21st lap of the race. "20 minutes remain, and Miguel Ramos makes the move to Moiseev for third place into turn 1. The BMW driver overcooked that a little bit. He rejoins. He asserts that he was in third position. He might have to give that back, and might be well advised to give it back. But for now, Ramos up to third on the road, ahead of Moiseev, with then Jody Fannin in fifth. Leading the way, it's still Marco Antonelli, who is 7.5 seconds clear of Gustavo Yackerman. But Yackerman is closing in on Antonelli at a rate of 1.5 seconds per lap. Jody Fannin will be the next driver to take his turn to try and navigate Moiseev. Here's another look at it. Ramos went for the move. He came from a long way back, sailed into the corner, understeer City, no option but to take to the escape route over the speed hump. Well, yesterday in the Euro Formula Open race, as Fahem here watches the screen, we did see a decision being made to have to give that place back. So we'll keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, Gustavo Yackerman, second place, 7.1 seconds back from Marco Antonelli. He is closing all the while. Yackerman currently looking set for second place in the championship. He didn't have the greatest of days yesterday alongside Fernando Monnier, which is what allowed Cristani and Biaggi to take the crown. But for Yackerman and for Monnier, it was also some races earlier in the year where they didn't make it to the finish that have possibly come back to haunt them later on in the campaign. 6.9 seconds deficit again, 1.3 seconds the rate of capture from Yackerman and Antonelli. We could be looking at a Teo Martin Motorsport 1-2 here, because Ramos is clear as Fannin now looks to the inside of Moiseev on the brakes into turn 1. But Fannin realises he hasn't quite got the traction to execute that move, particularly having seen the moment for Ramos a lap ago. So Fannin will now have to plot plan B, try and find somewhere else to overhaul the Ferrari, possibly even as soon as turn 4. Again, he looks to the inside line. Moiseev moves across preemptively, just takes a slightly more defensive route to turn 4. But if he slows himself, it does offer a window for turn 5. Again, Moiseev defensive, but he backs Fannin up. That's nice driving from Moiseev, but now Fannin gets on the power a fraction earlier. He draws alongside into turn 6, and Jody Fannin should go through on the brakes for turn 7. Indeed he does. Fannin gains the place up into 4th now for Jody Fannin in the Solaris Aston Martin. Moiseev slips to 5th. Sean Bouth in 6th is closing, and it's Jean-Luc Berbelic in 7th. Duncan Tapié 8th. Mark Farmer is 9th. Fabrizio Crestani 10th. Stephen Earle 11th. He leads the GTM class from Mauro Ricci and Manuel Diodati. So that's a quick spin through the positions. Here's another look at that move. Fannin to the inside of Moiseev. Beautifully done. Come on then, says Francesco Cini. Here is the champion, Fabrizio Crestani, currently in 10th place. And Crestani, well, he's making good progress on Mark Farmer, who's 4 seconds up the road ahead of him. And he's also a little bit quicker at the moment than Duncan Tapié in 8th and Jean-Luc Berbelic in 7th. So Crestani has got the opportunity, if he gets his head down and keeps pushing, to gain some more ground between now and the checkered flag. Now this is a battle to watch for. Sean Bouth has got Jean-Luc Berbelic, Duncan Tapié behind in the fight for 6th, 7th and 8th place. The Mercedes sandwiched by the 2 McLarens through turn 3 on towards turn 4. Bouth out to the periphery of the curbs. But Sean, wily competitor, he's not going to be an easy man to overtake. But Berbelic sees a gap to the inside of turn 5, and Bouth lets the Mercedes run out wide. Duncan Tapié sees a hole, almost taps the Mercedes. Well saved, Duncan Tapié, as he squirted the pad and he makes the pass on Jean-Luc Berbelic, gains 7th place, but that was nearly very messy. Fortunately, both drivers realised it just in time and avoided contact. Another look at it here. Berbelic deep into turn 5. Bouth sees it, goes to the undercut. Duncan Tapié sees the hole, goes for it. Berbelic slews back as he gets the power down. And then both drivers correct their steering lock just in time. So Duncan Tapié up to 7th. 5th place is certainly on the cards for Duncan. He might be able to sneak a little bit more from it than that, as here comes Miguel Ramos out of the final corner. Jody Fannin chasing him in 4th, and Fannin in clear air, actually not on that last lap able to run at the same pace as Miguel Ramos. Francesco Cini urges Jody Fannin onwards. Team very keen to get onto the podium if they can. And Fannin, that last lap, was 0.6 quicker than the race leader Antonelli. He needs really to double that per lap to challenge Antonelli between now and the flag. So Marco Antonelli leads the way. He's 4.5 seconds up the road from Gustavo Yackerman. Yackerman has got a further 7 seconds over Miguel Ramos in 3rd, and Ramos 4 seconds clear of Jody Fannin in 4th. And it's going to be between those 4 cars to sort out the rostrum. Aston Martin thunders downhill through turn 6. We've got another car in trouble somewhere on the start and finish straight. And a safety car coming out as well. So the safety car has come out. Oh my goodness me. This is really going to bunch things up. And here it is, it's Jean-Luc Berbelic. Oh no, that's a nasty accident, who crashes into the side of Duncan Tapié at turn 1. No wonder we've got the safety car, a huge incident. Berbelic lofted under braking, slammed into the side of Tapié's car. And that's a very sad end to the season for the Garage 59 car of Duncan Tapié and Michael Benham. Glad to see Jean-Luc Berbelic walking away, and Duncan Tapié, who hobbles off, because that was a huge impact. And both cars picking up a lot of damage. Very, very disappointing end to the season as well for Garage 59. Both of their cars involved in incidents, and that one, Duncan Tapié, completely innocent, as Berbelic lost it under braking. Well, I'm very pleased to see Duncan out of the car and under his own steam, and he gesticulates at Jean-Luc Berbelic. Berbelic, I think, explaining possibly that something broken the car, because the way that the car just snapped away from him seems somewhat unusual. We might get another look at the incident again, and that will be able to tell us exactly what happened. So we have got the field bunched up. Antonelli from Yackerman, then Jody Fannin, and all of Gustavo Yackerman's work has been done for him. In 5th is Alex Moiseev, 6th Sean Balfe, 7th Mark Farmer, 8th Fabrizio Crostani, 9th leading GTM is Stephen Earle from 10th, 2nd in GTM Mauro Ricci. So that is the order. And Alex West explains to Com Ledegar exactly what happened to Duncan Tappy. Mike Benham looking on, extremely frustrated. So we are going to be in for a dramatic finish here in Barcelona. So the safety car is out. So a big incident bringing the safety car out between Jean-Luc Berbelique and Duncan Tappy. Both drivers, I'm glad to say, are okay. But it has served to really group the field up. Here is another look at it. Berbelique lost it under braking, thumped into the concrete wall, and then torpedoed into the side of Tappy. Both cars slewing across the gravel trap, and Berbelique having another impact into the tyre wall. There you see it. That is absolutely awful. Not the sort of thing you want to see at all. And it may be from the other angle. Looks as if Berbelique could put a wheel on the damp curb under braking that caused the car to snap. If we had one more look at it, I think you could just see the black lines on the curb as they came under braking. Well, you can only really feel for Garage 59 and Duncan Tappy. And that was a big hit for Duncan. Big hit as well for Jean-Luc Berbelique, but they are okay. The safety car continues to circulate. Marco Antonelli remains the race leader, and when we do get going, we're probably going to have time for only 7 or so minutes of racing. So this is, well, it's good news for Gustavo Yackerman, because it allows him to cool down the Michelin tyre. He was between 1.2 and 0.8 of a second per lap quicker than Antonelli during the phase prior to the safety car. Fernando Morhe and Emilio de Vallota discuss matters in the Teo Martin Motorsport pit box. Miguel Ramos in 3rd, Jody Fannin is 4th. This also starts to bring Fabrizio Crostani in 8th back into the mix as well. Just under 10 minutes remain here in Barcelona. Conclusion of the International GT Open season. The safety car is out after Jean-Luc Berbelique lost control coming into turn 1 and torpedoed into Duncan Tappy. Both drivers are okay, but there is a fair amount of recovery work that's required, which is why the safety car is on track while that continues. Marco Antonelli is the race leader from Gustavo Yackerman, and Miguel Ramos in 3rd. 4th, Jody Fannin. 5th, Alex Moiseev. 6th, Sean Balfe. 7th is Mark Farmer. 8th, Fabrizio Crostani. 9th, leading the GTM class, is Stephen Earle from Mauro Ricci, who is in 10th. In terms of the championship situation, as it stands, Gustavo Yackerman will take 2nd in the standings with Fernando Morhe. So that is how the championship is poised as the field are bunched up behind the safety car. The clock, of course, continues to tick downwards as they head towards turn 5. So if the safety car comes in on this lap, it's still going to be at least 90 seconds before we get to the line. So there is Kessel Racing Ferrari. Second of them well, here's another look at the incident. Jean-Luc Berbelique, lost it under braking, really high speed, smashes into the side of the McLaren, and when a car is spinning out of control like that, and the reaction in the pit box tells you, I think, all that you need to know. So the safety car continues to circulate. And the lights stay on. So we're going to get at least one more lap behind the safety car. So it's going to be the best part of a 5-minute sprint, 3 laps or so, when we do get back up to racing speed. Now there is yesterday's race winning car, the Temto Racing Porsche of Kevin Estre and Peter Terting, but that car several laps down after Terting got left in the gravel trap earlier after coming together with Colm Ledergaard in the other garage 59 McLaren. So through the final turn, 7 minutes on the clock, one more lap to go behind the safety car. Now this most recent lap behind the safety car was 3 minutes, so that is going to give us just 4 minutes on the clock at the end of the lap. And hopefully this will be the last lap behind the safety car. So it's going to be quite the shootout when we do get racing. The pressure being heaped onto Marco Antonelli, and the restart is going to be critical. Can the Lamborghini get the jump on the brace of BMWs? What about the progress of Jody Fanning, the Aston Martin? The orange one, Team Lazarus Lamborghini of Fabrizio Crestani. The marshals all ready to get to work with sweeping away the debris through turns 1 and 2, which is where the incident happened. Well, most of the recovery vehicles now seem to be away from the scene. So the spectators all ready for what's going to be a thrilling conclusion to the race. Very dramatic end to the International GT Open season. Of course, a reminder, we will be back next year from the 29th and the 30th of April. The GT Open season will kick off in Estoril before then heading on to Spa in May. Paul Ricard in the middle of June, then the Hungaroring at the first weekend of July. The first weekend of September will take us to Silverstone, and then the first weekend of October to Monza, and then the last weekend of October we'll be back here 12 months' time to bring the 2017 season to a close in Barcelona. But now, before the winter break, there is the chance to race for one more win. The safety car has bunched the field up. This is the latest in a race that we've had a safety car for quite some time in the International GT Open, and so this is going to be a little bit of a trip into the unknown. There is Jean-Luc Berbelic's car being retrieved. The marshals still getting to work sweeping. Coming towards turn 10. The safety car will be in on this lap. So the safety car will be in this lap. The drivers will have the team telling them on the radio. The lights go out on the safety car now. The lights are out on the safety car. We have got time for just 3 laps of racing or thereabouts in the International GT Open season. This is going to be a shootout to the flag. It's Marco Antonelli who is going to pace the field around. 4 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock. Even less than that as Antonelli. Oh, he kicks the car sideways as he gets the power down out of the chicane. But Miguel Ramos didn't anticipate the restart quite so well. He's going to be under pressure from Jody Fanning as they hurtle down the start and finish straight and towards the first corner. Antonelli defending immediately from Gustavo Jacquemin. The Lamborghini to the inside, the BMW to the outside, and Jacquemin's going to go for it. But Antonelli defends, he makes contact with Jacquemin, oh no, and the BMW is in the gravel and has picked up a little bit of damage. And Gustavo Jacquemin off the road, it promotes Sean Balfe, and Balfe passes Jacquemin and moves up to second in the championship as Crestani challenges Mark Farmer and gains the position. There's damage as well to the tail of Antonelli. Also trying to make progress is Kevin Estre, but he's not fighting for position, and what a shame for Gustavo Jacquemin. He just tagged the Lamborghini in the BMW, and the Colombian gets out and stalks away. I think he must have just dinked something in the suspension geometry, and so that is going to hand second in the standings to Sean Balfe. And what was looking at one point as if it could have been a win for Jacquemin ends in utter dejection. But it's now the turn of the sister Teo Martin Motorsport BMW of Miguel Ramos to take the fight to Marco Antonelli. Jody Fanning is still there in the Solaris Aston Martin. Another look at it, Jackman went for the move, Antonelli defended and then just understeered wide at the point at which Jackman was turning in, and it was just wheel-to-wheel contact, and unfortunately damage to the front right suspension of Jackman's car, to the frustration of Fernando Monge. Another car in trouble, Alexis de Bernardi spins at turn 10. Mauro Ricci, has he picked up some damage as well? Here are the leading trio. We've got time for 2 more laps before the clock expires, and it's Antonelli who leads down the straight. Fannin, headlights ablaze, chases Miguel Ramos, but this is looking good for Marco Antonelli, you know. He has got 0.8 of a second as they get on the brakes, as Fabrizio Crostani launches, or tries to the inside of Alex Moisev. He's already passed Sean Balfe, but waved yellow flags at turn 1. Nothing doing. Could Crostani do something here? That could be quite incredible. If he's past Moisev, he's in 4th and has got leaders to chase down. Meanwhile, Ramos is with Antonelli. Fannin is watching and waiting. Here comes Crostani. Mark Farmer also looking to try and make the move on Sean Balfe. 1.5 minutes on the clock. 1.5 laps left in the race. Crostani looking every which way to overhaul the Russian. He's going to challenge the outside of turn 5. It's unlikely to end well. And then gets back into the train behind him as they run through turn 6 on the brakes and up through turns 7 and 8. Moisev a little bit slow. Crostani bobs and weaves. Can he get the overlap into turn 9? No, he can't. They swing through now. 1 minute to run. Again, Moisev slower mid-corner. That's the fight for 4th. The fight for the lead as one. Fight for 4th as one. Balfe looks to the inside of Crostani, and Sean Balfe, well, he certainly thought about challenging. Crostani moves across, but Alex Moisev doing a great job in this Kaspersky Ferrari. Defending from Fabrizio Crostani. Kevin Estre, don't forget, is a couple of laps down. He's just out there for the fun of it, and he's having a lot of fun. But Sean Balfe would probably rather do without it. He just needs to bring the car home safely to get the points to finish ahead of Gustavo Jackman. Crostani all over the place as they head into the final lap of the season now. Marco Antonelli leads the way from Miguel Ramos, and Ramos doesn't have a response yet. The gap remains 0.9 of a second, and Antonelli in the Antonelli Motorsport Lamborghini could well win this. There's still waved yellow flags over at turn 1. It takes away one of the prime overtaking opportunities. The clock has ticked to 0. Where do you watch? Well, certainly this fight for 4th is a good one. Crostani looking for more ground. Balfe just wants to make it through to the finish safely. No change in the lead. Ramos a little bit closer to Antonelli, but not by much. Balfe looks to the inside of Crostani. Crostani can't challenge Moisev. Under turn 4 into turn 5. They're all queuing up behind Alex Moisev. The race leaders have now long gone. They're some 6 seconds up the road as the Russian driver continues to defend. Climbing through turns 7 and 8. Watching from the commentary box, and Marco Antonelli, can tell you, is still leading comfortably as they head towards turn 10 for the final time. Here we see it. So the race leaders swing through. The fight for 4th about to arrive. Crostani looks every which way and challenges the inside of Moisev, and he's going to go through. But Marco Antonelli is just 3 corners from home, and he's going to take victory, you think, because he's got just this downhill run through the chicane, and Ramos isn't close enough to take the challenge to him. Through the chicane, Antonelli navigates it perfectly, and Miguel Ramos isn't quite close enough. So through the final turn, the checker flag is ready and waiting, and Marco Antonelli and Daniel Zampieri win the final race of the International GT Open season. Second place to Miguel Ramos and Peter Schotthaus, with Jody Fannin and Francesco Cini completing the podium. Crostani and Biaggi in 4th, Moisev Ciocci in 5th, Sean Balfe and Phil Keane take 6th, and therefore they finished 2nd in the championship. It's Peter Schotthaus and the Teo Martin Motorsport team celebrate on the pit wall. The Antonelli Motorsport team are euphoric, as this is for GTAM honours. Oh, the final corner as well. And it is Stephen Earle who loses out. Contact from Antonio Coimbra. Here's a look at the move from Crestani on Moiseev into turn 10 on the last lap. So incredible drama. And this is the race winner. Antonelli Motorsport, Daniel Zampieri and Marco Antonelli. So checking the classification then. Zampieri and Antonelli win it from Ramos and Shotos. Then Sini and Fanin complete the podium. Biaggi and Crestani in 4th from Moiseev and Ciocci. Sean Balfe and Phil Keane in 6th from Mark Farmer and John Barnes. Jürgen Höring and Arkin Acker win the GT-AM class from the Ricci's, and then Coimbra and Silva who will complete the GT-AM podium, with then Diodati in 11th place from Dubonani and Kadai Earl and Perel. Disappointment for them with that contact late on, but even more so for Gustavo Jackermann and Fernando Monge, so nearly a win, but that ends in disappointment for them. Duncan Tappy and Jean-Luc Berbelique, very pleased to see them walking away from such a nasty incident. So look at the final standings then. Crestani and Biaggi, our 2016 champions. Sean Balfe, 2nd in the points from Monge and Jackermann, with Miguel Ramos in 4th, 1 point adrift of his teammates. And then Sally Ulick and Ewan Hankey, disappointment for them after Ulick retired early on, and the same for Alex West, with Com Ledegaard, his co-driver, retiring in the early stages of the race. Incredibly dramatic way to bring the season to a close here in Barcelona. So Marco Antonelli heads down pit lane towards Parc Ferme, and at one point that looked like it might be quite an unlikely victory, but instead Antonelli soaked up the pressure, first of all from Gustavo Jackermann, then from Miguel Ramos. So he and Daniel Zampieri celebrate victory. Circuit to Barcelona, Catalunya. Antonelli climbs from the cockpit, celebrates with the team. Runners-up Miguel Ramos and Peter Shotos took the fight to Antonelli, and 3rd place for Jody Fanin and Francesco Sini. So Teo Martin offers his congratulations to Miguel Ramos, who in turn gives his thanks. Peter Shotos likewise. A big smile and thumbs up from Miguel Ramos. That was a very nicely judged race from the Portuguese. Zampieri and Antonelli, our race winners in the final event of the International GT Open season. Double thumbs up from Miguel Ramos. Great dicing late on. Safety car serving to bunch up the field.
Daniel Zampieri, Marco Antonelli, what a winner.
Yeah, I'm really happy because we come back after 2 years, so coming and winning at the first day, so it's okay. Thanks to Marco, the car was okay, all the team worked well, and yeah, we won.
Marco, a team principal, but still a driver.
After maybe 6 years, 7 years, that not did the race, I'm very happy. Thank Daniel and my team.
Well done, guys.
Two very happy drivers claiming the win here in Barcelona. Take a look back then at the best of a very dramatic race, and off the line it was Daniel Zampieri who got the jump as the field hurtled towards the first turn. John Barnes was running him closely as it got all very congested behind. On the first lap, incident between Christian Krognes and John Barnes. The TF Sport Aston Martin turned around, but the Attempto Lamborghini forced into retirement. The early stages, as ever, full of dicing as David Perel took the fight to Fernando Moyet in the Kessel Racing Ferrari. Front of the field though, Zampieri was stretching away as Francesco Cini was trying just a little bit too hard to gain ground. Post pit stops, however, and Jean-Luc Burberly was engaged in battle with Sean Balfe and Duncan Tappy as Antonelli at the front was being chased down by Gustavo Jackermann. Then Burberly lost it under braking for turn one, torpedoed into Duncan Tappy. Both drivers okay, but a lengthy safety car bunched the field, and when we got going, Gustavo Jackermann retired trying to pass Antonelli, which meant Marco Antonelli and Daniel Zampieri took the win from Miguel Ramos and Peter Schothorst, with the podium completed by Francesco Cini and Jody Fannin. It was a thrilling way to bring the season to a close. And now it's time for the Antonelli Motorsport team to celebrate on the podium. But first of all, third step of the rostrum for the Solaris Motorsport pairing of Jody Fannin and Francesco Cini. Fannin and Cini have had the pace all weekend. A well-judged drive, giving them the podium. Peter Schothorst and Miguel Ramos celebrating on the second step of the rostrum. And then Daniel Zampieri and Marco Antonelli on the top step of the rostrum here in Barcelona for Antonelli Motorsport. Italian national anthem to salute Marco Antonelli and Daniel Zampieri, winners in the final race of the International GT Open season here in Barcelona. Third place trophies for Jody Fannin and Francesco Cini. Runners up, Miguel Ramos and Peter Schothorst. And race winners Zampieri and Antonelli. So as the presentations are made, it's time to say thank you very much for joining us this year for the International GT Open. We hope that you have enjoyed watching the racing as much as everybody in the paddock has enjoyed bringing it to you. And we will see you in the last weekend of April next year as the 2017 season will get underway in Estoril. Until then, from Ben Evans and the GT Open community in Barcelona, it's goodbye and see you next year. Almost time for the final GT-AM podium of the year as well, and it was another excellent race in the GT-AM class, which was claimed in the event by Jürgen Hering and Arkin Acker in the Attempto Racing Porsche. But third place was the Sporting New Mercedes Antonio Coimbra and Luis Silva. A weekend of adventures for the Portuguese pairing. Take their place on the third step of the rostrum and celebrate Benjamin and Mauro Ricci, runners-up in the AKKA ASP team Mercedes, with Jürgen Hering and Arkin Acker for Attempto Racing to the top step of the GT-AM rostrum. So on to the presentation of the trophies. Third place for Coimbra and Silva. Again, they had the opportunity to gain ground on the restart, which bunched the field together. Benjamin and Mauro Ricci, a very successful weekend. And the same as well for Jürgen Hering and Arkin Acker. They take the win in the final GT-AM class race of the season. And that is presented by the president of the Spanish Motorsport Federation. So Arkin Acker and Jürgen Hering celebrate on the podium in Barcelona. We will see you at Estoril in 2017.